I'm just on my way back from physio for my foot, and I actually got some time to address the video you wanted me to make, which was about sovereign citizens versus Queen's subjects. As I've probably said before, I don't like to talk about things I don't understand. Sovereign citizens, I got, I think, a solid understanding to enough of an understanding as I need in this life. So I can speak on that. When it comes to the versus Queen's subjects, I don't understand the context of that. Like, I understand what a subject is, and I understand the Commonwealth and a Queen's subject, but I don't understand what it means versus sovereign citizens. I'm not sure what that means. So until I understand what that actually even means, I'm not going to speak on it, because I don't like to speak on things I don't understand, because it's pointless. But I can speak on sovereign citizens because I was fascinated by sovereign citizens for a while and did a lot of research on them. I kind of went down that rabbit hole for quite some time, so that was a while ago, but I'll see what I can remember. I do remember, so the sovereign citizens movement, I think it was hard to pinpoint where it started, but I think it's a combination of the anti-tax movement, and the Christians Patriots movement that was against local government. So they weren't against government, but they were against local government. Somewhere between a little cloud there, as that movement, sovereign citizens movement, came out. And what I can say about sovereign citizens, there's a couple of conclusions I've reached that would indicate that they are dysfunctional, and there's a couple of errors in the way they live their lives and what they believe. I'm going to start actually the opposite way around to what I normally would, with the most superficial one first. I was going to do the most theoretical one first, but I'm going to start out with the most superficial one, which is, even if we lived in a world where what the sovereign citizens believed was actually correct, which it's not, but let's just say we lived in a world where what they believed was accurate, the law doesn't behave in that way. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't behave in that way. So to try and invoke sovereign citizens' speech and try to, in regards to law and authority figures, you can never win, because the law doesn't recognize what sovereign citizens believe. Again, whether that's right or wrong, good or bad, is beside the point. The fact is, if you get pulled over by police and they want to see your ID and you refuse to give it to them, if you don't have number plates on your car, if you start calling your car like saying it's not, you don't need a license because it's not for commercial use, or whatever the thing is that they say, start quoting from the Black Laws Dictionary, all that stuff, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. And again, regardless if it's right or wrong, it simply doesn't work. So you end up creating problems and bringing your life problems that didn't even need to be there to begin with. I've seen sovereign citizens have their car towed away over a tail light being out, because they got pulled over by police and the tail light was out, and instead of saying, "Oh, thank you, I'll get that fixed," they started going off with the authority figure policemen, because they can't handle it, because their ego's too fragile, and they ended up getting their car towed. The car wasn't registered, they didn't have a license, but none of that needed to even be, addressed. The wife was in the car at the time, and that child had a doctor's appointment, which they couldn't go to. They couldn't take their child to the doctor's appointment because their car got towed, because the guy couldn't keep his mouth shut because his ego is too fragile and he wants to spill out all this sovereign citizen stuff. So it creates problems that it baffles my mind when I see people live that way. Like, surely in life you want to avoid as many problems as possible and put yourself in the most favourable conditions for you and your family. So I would consider that dysfunctional. To get pulled over for a tail light and have your car towed is dysfunctional and is not helping your family or anything like that. So it's just amazing. But it comes down to pride, it comes down to ego, it comes down to fragility, it comes down to perhaps not having a strong figures, not having strong father figure or strong, role models in your life. Sovereign citizens does attract the type of people that don't like authority. So just like childish people, like that, when you're 4-year-old, 3-year-old kids, when you tell them what to do and they're like, no, and they don't want to do it because they haven't learned to respect and appreciate how authority works. I mean, they do when they turn like 7. Like my daughter's 7 now and she respects me as an authority figure. But obviously she did when she was a baby. But some people don't even develop that when they're 7. Some people don't even develop that in adulthood if they don't have strong role models. And then that's the type of people that Sovereign Citizens Movement attracts, people that are very egotistical and very fragile. And so I've noticed that pattern. If you look at Sovereign Citizens and you look at videos on Sovereign Citizens, it attracts fragile people that have massively overinflated egos, which stems from insecurity. So it attracts insecure people. But on a superficial level, it doesn't work anyway, because even if you're right, even if you as a sovereign citizen, I'm right, and what I'm saying is right, the law doesn't behave that way. So why would you, even if you're right, you would keep it to yourself? Because if you want to live in a world where you're trying to create favourable conditions, if you live in a dictatorship, you still, you want to protect your family and protect yourself and create the most favourable conditions for your life. And fighting by yourself against something, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. As again, that example of that guy that had his car towed. It's a perfect example. Didn't need any problems, just needed to say thank you, I'll replace it when I get home. And ended up having his car towed, couldn't take his kids to the doctors, which is dysfunctional. That's not how a father figure should care for his family. So that's the superficial side of it. But the technical side of it is that they have a complete misunderstanding of law. They only refer to sovereign citizens, other sovereign citizens and sovereign citizen movement for their information on law, which means they get that closed understanding. Kind of like, I don't know, like the flat earth one as well. Like, if you want to believe in flat earth and you only research flat earth, or for example people that believe in creationism, if you only research creationism and you don't even study the science, then you will, like the flat earthers will convince themselves that the earth is flat even though it's obviously not. The same thing happens with sovereign citizens and law. They think they understand law, they use jargon that sounds like they understand law, but they simply don't understand law. And there's many lawyers online, lots of shows that are very interesting where lawyers explain the errors that sovereign citizens make with their understanding of law. But it's common sense as well. Do we want to live in a world where we send our kids to school and intoxicated people are driving at 150 kilometers an hour up and down the road on, school, down the street, endangering kids' lives and everyone's lives? No, we have laws where you need a license. If you get pulled over, you need to cooperate with the police. Of course we do. No one wants to live in a world where, if you're drunk and you're doing 150 kilometers an hour down the road, then there's laws for that. You can't just say, I'm a sovereign citizen, they don't adhere to me, you're a corporation or whatever. No, you can't call the policeman a corporation and say that the laws don't adhere to you, because no one wants to live in a society where intoxicated people without a license and without registered vehicle disobeying road rules and going 150 kilometers an hour up and down school zones where your kids are. It's common sense. It's common sense. But they believe they are immune from the law. which they're not, and that's what they get where they get it wrong. So the technical thing that they get wrong is that the misunderstanding of the law. They convince themselves they understand the law when they don't, and they create problems for them and their family that could have been avoided and should have been avoided. I think that's all I can say about sovereign citizens. I also know that they believe that the interesting thing about sovereign citizens is you would think that they'd be against birth certificates, like they'd have a problem because it's a document from the government it's been administered by the government. You'd think you'd have a problem with that as a sovereign citizen, but they don't. They think that they have some sort of rights with the birth certificate. They think that if their name's written in capitals, that makes a difference compared to if it's written in lowercase. I can't remember exactly the context of that, but I remember that they don't recognise their name written in capital letters. There was another one. Oh, they think citizens are currency. When we went off the gold standard, when America went off the gold standard and turned it into a fiat currency, sovereign citizens believe that it went from the gold standard to the citizen standard, where somehow people are currency. So yeah, it's just a total misunderstanding of reality, and because of that, they create problems in their life that they could have avoided if they could have easily avoided. Yeah. So yeah, that's as much as I can say on sovereign citizens. I think off the top of my head, that's as much as I can say without sitting down and researching it again. Yeah, that's it.